Am I the asshole for reading my coworker's fanfiction in front of everyone at work? I guess the title sounds bad, but please hear me out. 27M. I'm a general manager at a fast food restaurant, not gonna say which because I don't want to get in trouble with my assistant manager, Sophie 23F. Me and Sophie get along pretty well. We joke, fight about stuff all the time and like to prank each other a lot. Like prank calls or making the other do fake orders or writing fake surveys about the other. Or splashing soda on the other. We end up working together a lot since we get a bunch of callouts, especially at night, and Sophie likes to pick up extra hours. We've both climbed up in the couple years that we've worked there and have a good relationship. When it's dead, Sophie likes to write fanfiction on her phone, which I sometimes tease her about. A while back I made Sophie read me a line that she was writing and we were making jokes about it. Last week I suddenly remembered the fanfiction again and decided to try and find it. I remembered the line she had read to me and was able to search for it online using quotation marks. I'm not gonna say which show it's from because I don't want anyone to find it, but it was shocking to read. Pretty much the two characters in it worked at a fast food chain and ended up falling in love. It got pretty graphic at some parts too. The main character was essentially a representation of Sophie and the love interest was basically me. I mean, right down to copying conversations that we've had at work. He even had a wife that he was cheating on to be with her. I'm married, but I would never do such a thing. Anyway, a few nights ago Sophie and the rest of the team threw a party to celebrate a couple of wins, and of course Sophie pranked me by shoving a cupcake in my face. So I remembered what I read. I thought it would be a good prank, so I pulled up the fanfiction on my phone and started to read it. When she realized what I was reading, Sophie's eyes started to tear up, which I was not expecting. The rest of the team was joking around with her, but she ran out of the party. Now she's not showing up to her shifts or answering my calls or texts. It's weird that Sophie's acting like this since she usually loves pranks and stuff, so now I'm wondering if I took it too far? But I also feel like she shouldn't have been writing those things about me and her too. Am I the asshole? So here's an interesting question for you, Op. What's the prank? What's the joke? What are everyone supposed to laugh at? Oh, that's right. They're meant to laugh that Sophie is bad at doing something she works hard at. Let's all laugh at Sophie. Not at something funny she did. Not because of something you did to her, just at her efforts and passions. That's not a joke. That was bullying. You are the asshole. And also delusional. If you seriously think that a setting and rehashing real conversations means she's using a character as a proxy for you as opposed to just using what she knows as part of her writing. You are the asshole. That wasn't a prank, you intentionally embarrassed her in front of people. A prank is something silly when you both laugh together. This was mean-spirited and it humiliated her. You should apologize. I feel like you already know you are the asshole. And you're saying, she shouldn't have been writing those things about me and her too. What? It was fanfiction, not technically about you or even tangentially connected to you in any way until you went and found it and read it to your coworkers. You totally broke her trust and then embarrassed her. This is like reading someone's diary in high school. Not a prank, this is incredibly hurtful. Do better. You are the asshole, holy crap. She shoves a cupcake in your face and you basically revenge porn her through her fantasy fanfic? You need to prepare a lawyer. You are the asshole, that's not a prank. That's revealing a private side to her that she trusted you enough to share but didn't want others to know. That was a serious violation of trust and an asshole move. Also, her writing honestly might not be about you and she's just combining scenes from work to make her character sound more realistic. But I'm sure you won't have to worry about it anymore because you probably shamed her into quitting writing. Hear me out. I know this sounds bad, but you are the asshole. Am I the asshole for telling my sister I don't care that she had a miscarriage? I, 22M, have a older sister, 26F. Last year she miscarried. I don't even know how many miscarriages she's had, but she had 2 successful pregnancies. One that resulted in my 6-year-old niece and one that resulted in my 3-year-old nephew who died of heart failure 5 years ago due to complications during her pregnancy. During my sister's miscarriage, my wife was 1 month pregnant. All of my wife's pregnancy she had to avoid any family gatherings because if my sister was there, she'd start crying and screaming about how heartless my wife was for rubbing it in her face. My wife never really cared that much because she told me she didn't want to hurt my sister. It annoyed me because me and my wife weren't even able to speak about the pregnancy, nor were our family members. We weren't allowed to have a gender reveal or baby shower because when she found out we were planning to, she called me screaming at me for having no consideration for her, and she told me she'd never let me see my niece again if I even dared to have one. This was our first child. Of course we were upset but didn't say anything. When it got too much for me was when my wife had asked my mom to be with her in the delivery room as her own mom couldn't travel because of COVID restrictions. She asked when we were over at my parents' house, and the only other people there were my brother and his wife. His wife ended up telling my sister, and she freaked out. It turned into her telling my mother that she had no care in the world for her lost grandbaby, and since she didn't care she should never see my niece again. Then it turned to asking me how I could do this to her. Then it turned into calling my wife an attention-seeking whore. I ended up not talking to her for months because of that one. My mother was in the delivery room anyways, but she had to tell my sister she hadn't been. Everyone else knows except my sister. My son turned 6 months recently. My wife decided to do a mini photo shoot with him in a giraffe costume, and she sent it to my aunt, who in turn posted it on her Facebook account. My sister hadn't met my son until this point either because she refused to. When she saw that me and my wife were tagged, she called me telling me that I knew she had a miscarriage and that I was flaunting the fact that I had a healthy son. She started laughing on the phone, telling me that either way her son would have probably been 10x cuter than that slur me and my wife have. My wife is Mexican. At this point I got fed up and told her that her miscarriage was more than a year ago and that I didn't give a fuck and that she should go somewhere else to get a pity party. My mom and dad called me yelling at me and asking what I had done because my sister had called them wailing. I explained it to them and they're still upset at me, telling me I should have said something nicer and tried to get her to calm down. Am I the asshole? Holy fuck, your sister sounds exhausting. Not the asshole, obviously. Not the asshole. Grief isn't an excuse to ruin other people's joy. Not the asshole. Your sister needs serious counseling and the rest of your family needs to stop enabling and/or pot stirring, your brother and his wife. I think the way your family has treated your wife is especially shameful. I'm guessing some of this has to do with her being a different nationality, race? Not the asshole. It sounds like your sister thinks the world revolves around her, and if she can't be happy, no one can. You are definitely allowed to share your news, celebrate your child, post photos, etc. If she can't handle that, that is her problem. You have been considerate enough for a long time. If she continues to behave like a brat, she deserves to hear what you've told her. Not the asshole dude. Does she never leave the house, watch TV, use social media? There's always babies and children everywhere. Does she scream and cry at every one of the random people she walks by, or does she use this special power just around your wife, baby? Miscarriages are hard, yes. I've had a couple myself. However, I absolutely dote on my niece and nephews and never would have dreamt about using my heartache to cause other people their own. I'm gonna go with not the asshole here, simply because she pushed you to this limit. Her grief doesn't give her the right to be cruel, jealous, and even racist, not only to you or your wife, but to your baby. It's no one's fault that she's had miscarriages and losses, and you're not rubbing anything in her face. You wanted to celebrate your little one. The world doesn't revolve around her. You shouldn't have to miss out on milestones just to cater to her grief. If she can't manage her grief in a healthy way and quit with the unwarranted toxicity towards your family, then cut her off. Congrats on your little one. Am I the asshole for refusing to punish or allow my wife to punish our son? This all started back in March. My son's best friend turned 13. In his family, 13th birthday is a huge deal. In addition to a massive party, which all four of us were invited to, his parents also took him to Disney World. They invited my son to attend as well. My wife was hesitant to consent to this. She said it was unfair to allow our son to go when our 9-year-old daughter can't. Especially since she loves Disney and princesses. I said that our kids won't always have the exact same opportunities, and if we set a precedent here, we'll have to stick to it if and when our daughter gets a similar opportunity. So we'd just be punishing both our children needlessly. My wife reluctantly agreed that we should allow our son to go. I gave our son money to buy his sister souvenirs. He did, and his friend's parents even bought extra stuff for him to give to her. Still, when she saw him come back wearing a Star Wars shirt with the Mickey hat and trading pin lanyard, she burst into tears. My wife later said we made a huge mistake and never should have let him go. I, mistakenly, thought all of that was behind us. Now, we are not well off financially, but my bill is, and he invited all of us to visit a beach house he rented for a summer send-off. My wife told me she wants to have our son stay with my dad and just take out daughter to even the score. I told my wife that isn't happening. We are their parents. We can't favor one child over the other. Not being invited to the birthday trip of a kid you barely know is in no way comparable to being left out of a family vacation, and I'm shocked she would even suggest such a thing. I refuse to allow it. Now my wife is angry, but I don't care. I'm not punishing my son for being lucky. Am I the asshole? Not the asshole. Your wife sounds like she has a clear favorite out of the two kids and isn't afraid to show it. Of course your son should go on vacation with you all. I'm shocked that she would want him to miss out. That's awful. Is she always this unkind to him? Not the asshole. But your wife? Woo. When your daughter doesn't make varsity volleyball, will you pull your son from varsity baseball and punish him for making varsity the previous year, too? How about when your son makes partner, but your daughter doesn't? Oh. How about when your son has kids and your daughter miscarries? What will your wife do then? Info. Does your wife like her son? What kind of mum excludes their child from a family vacation for no reason? Edit. The more I think about, I'm appalled a mum could be so callous and cold to her gownson. Your mum's son is supposed to be his advocate and protector, not the person who hurts him emotionally. Not the asshole. Not the asshole. Die on this hill. You were 100% correct that your kids aren't going to receive the same opportunities in life. Daughter has to learn how to handle situations like this in life, because she's not always going to be treated the same or have the same opportunities as everyone around her, and she needs to learn to handle that with grace. Also, this is your family inviting you, like you said, not a child's friend. Your wife would be excluding your son from his entire family, which is just awful. Let your wife be angry about this, she's completely out of line. What a strange reaction. I wonder what the root of it really is. Not the asshole. You're right. The kids are different with their own set of friends and life opportunities. They can't and shouldn't be raised together all the time. Your wife is being incredibly unreasonable with that type of ask to even the score. Hope you get it worked out. Scissor medium skin tone. Not the asshole. Son doesn't need to be punished just because he got a privilege his sister didn't. Excluding him from a family vacation for some sort of justice is an absurd way of thinking. Am I the asshole for not following the school supply standards for my children? I 35M have 2 children, 9M and 5M. My littlest one is going into kindergarten and I was so excited to properly include him in our school shopping routine. He's always tagged along with his brother and gotten his own arts and craft stuff to use at home, of course, but there's a new layer of excitement this year. We always allow independence in choices, as long as it doesn't become inconvenient. For example, if my kid picks out the 120 count crayons, we might redirect him to the 96 count instead, since that's easier to carry around in his backpack. Other than practicality, we don't try to persuade them in any way. It's always a fun experience and a great way to kick off the school year, and to relieve some of those, "Oh God, my baby is leaving me," fears for my husband and I with our 5-yo. We usually grab quite a few of the items on the teacher's wish list as well and make a point to wrap it up nicely as a little thank you present from our children to the educator that will be spending the year with them. This year, upon receiving the school supplies list, there is a note made at the top that all supplies should be exactly as listed on the sheet, such as a 24-pack of crayons, as all items will be shared with every student in the class. This was confusing for me, as I buy the items specifically for my children. I decided I was going to go through with our supply shopping tradition as normal, never getting anything less than what was required, of course, and send a note with both of my boys that their items would be their own and could be kept in their backpacks as usual. When I expressed this sentiment to those around me, aside from my husband, who was on my side, they weren't very receptive to the idea. Am I the asshole for not following the rules listed? Edit. I am 100% open, and now intend to buy extra school supplies to send with each of my children for those whose families can't afford to purchase them. My kiddos also love to share, and I'm sure they would love to pass around some colors from their boxes of crayons or let someone borrow their scissors when the time came. We also respect teachers and don't expect them to provide supplies for every student. Just wanted to clear these things up. You are the asshole for the reasons others have mentioned. 14 years in the public schools. You don't want to start the year being that parent, you just don't. Most classrooms I was in, extra items were simply sent home or not used. May I suggest that you could set up a homework station at home with some of the off-list items that your kiddos would like? From a teacher. You are the asshole. There's a reason that teachers require certain things on supply lists. Especially if items are going to be shared. You trying to individualize supplies for your kids just makes it harder on the teacher when they have 25 plus more kids like yours to manage in their classroom. Shared supplies also create a sense of accountability for the children. What you're doing is just teaching your kids that it's okay to not follow directions and do what they want to do. Following directions is one of the biggest problems with kids in schools. Reading these comments about people pissed they gotta spend their own money for other people's kids' supplies. Completely ignoring the fact that teachers spend their own money on other people's kids all the time. Be upset at your district. Go to meetings and tell them that schools need more money for supplies and teachers need more money in their pockets. I don't really agree with the school's plan here, but your plan to just ignore it is going to go over very poorly. Right off the bat you'll be seen as the difficult parent and your kids as the difficult kids. As a prior teacher I wouldn't care about the letter, sorry not sorry. In a classroom, things eventually get mixed up, shared etc. Teachers have bigger things to worry about during class, not whether that's Johnny's pink crayon that Susie is using. But it's a good heads up to the teacher as to what type of parent she will have to deal with. So good job forewarning them. You are the asshole. The teacher informed you that supplies would be shared. You're causing problems for their classroom. Why? Get them, special, things for home use, but for school, provide the supplies as listed. It's not that difficult if you have the money. The kids can benefit from learning to share this one time.